Tower Grove. You've got to go. If, like they said, if for nothing else, the food, but it's a great experience. It really is. Okay, so joining us at the first table, the president and CEO of the International Institute of St. Louis, Anna Crossland, also Jorge Rio Pedre, Executive Director of Casa de Salud, and Betsy Cohen, Executive Director of the St. Louis Mosaic Project. Okay, so St. Louis, I believe, is in the top 20-ish metro population-wise. I have here 43rd in the number of foreign-born citizens. Why do we struggle to attract and retain immigrants? Betsy?
Well, historically, and Anna can talk a bit about that too, we just have not, in the recent years, been a mecca for international people to come here. Some of it has been organic with slow population growth overall, and some of it has been a lack of attraction strategies that will bring people here who are either professionals or high skilled or lesser skilled to really give them an opportunity to make their career here.
Mm-hmm. You know, we heard a few minutes ago that in 1860, the city was 50% immigrants. By 1900, it had dropped to 19% immigrants. And so there was a huge drop just in that period. And today it's 4.3% immigrants. Yeah. And so it has been on a steady decline since that peak. It peaked in terms of being the 4th largest city in the United States in 1900. It peaked in terms of population that was immigrant in 1860. What was the decline? In some ways, the decline is related to other kinds of issues here in St. Louis, where we saw that resulted in decline too, mainly the change in transportation, in inland transportation, from steamboats that used to come up from New Orleans then to St. Louis and dock, to the change and the transcontinental railroad system, which finally was joined in 1869 with Chicago as the hub. And so at that point then, the major number of newcomers that came into the inland part of the United States and West actually came by train through Chicago and bypassed St. Louis.
So the same reason anyone else, the reason our growth for any other reason was not what it was at one time.
Right.
Okay, so fast forward a little bit, 1980s. This is from Phil Dine, who formerly worked for the Post-Dispatch, doing a lot of what Doug Moore does. This is something he wrote in the 1980s, and then also talking about the 90s, from whether it be refugees from fleeing war or from Mexico, Central America. St. Louis was attractive because immigration was not an issue that aroused passion, acrimony, or even much discussion. So we're not attracting, but we're not turning them away either. Is that still the case? Is it still viewed that way, St. Louis, when it comes to immigration?
You know, I think it's been stable, but we are increasing. And it's interesting because we are declining in our native-born population, but we are actually increasing in our foreign-born population, just not fast enough to overcome the numbers that we're losing of our native-born. So it's been quiet growth. And I think to that point, it's happened in a quiet way. We were growing at about 2.3% of our foreign-born, but places like Baltimore are growing 5% a year in their foreign-born, and that's helping grow the region. So ours is quietly ramping up, but the question is, can we make it bigger? But I think it's quiet, to your point. It isn't something that's terrifically visible, and partly because our foreign-born population is very dispersed in the region. People live all over. The maps show that our foreign-born population is all over based on where they work, where they want to live, the school districts, the green space, their homes. They have a lot of opportunities. So in some ways, you don't have that concentration that arouses, more passion either in favor of it or against it.
People, I think South Grand or Cherokee Street has the flavor, but that's not the concentration of where people live, is what you're saying.
No, it's very interesting because the statistics show that, again, we have 4.3% as a region. The highest percent neighborhood is Olivet at close to 20%, and then Maryland Heights at about 14 to 15, followed by Chesterfield in terms of percent foreign-born, because we have so many people, in this case, many of them that are high-skilled and some that are lesser skilled, that live all over.
Yeah, and last year, CASA served people from 28 different counties in Illinois and Missouri, just to make to Betsy's point about how dispersed people are who live in our region.
Why is it important? I think if I had to guess, all three of you would say it's important that this number grow faster. Why?
I think that the more that we have a strong foreign-born population here in St. Louis and the region in general, the better we are going to do economically. The better that we are going to do just in terms of diversity, a place that people want to live in. You look at, and I know and that Anna has lots of stories about this, you look at millennials, and you see that millennials want to live in a diverse world the way that they are diverse. And if we're not able to grow the population that looks like the millennials, who are our new job creators and our new job doers, then they are going to take one of their many other options outside of St. Louis, and that can only be to our detriment.
What's so interesting about the immigrants, Jack Strauss did a study, former professor at St. Louis University, did a study in 2012 about the economic impact of immigration in St. Louis. And what he found were that immigrants were 60% more likely to be entrepreneurs, to start businesses here than native-born St. Louisans. That's really important when small business is the backbone of economic growth in this country. The other issue that's really important is population growth, that one of the issues that St. Louis has suffered from so long with this declining population is that we don't have enough people to be able to buy the goods and services that people want to be able to sell in the community. So the truth of the matter is new population in general is important to our area, but then when you look at the statistics, what you find is the new growth in this country in terms of population is immigrant. So you have to put the two and two together and say, if you want more population, then it inevitably has to be immigrant at this point. And Betsy has some really interesting numbers in terms of growth, population growth.
I think that's why when the steering committee of the St. Louis Mosaic Project set this goal that by 2020, our goal is that we should be the fastest growing major metropolitan area for immigration, the view was we need neighborhood vitality, we need businesses started, we need our schools to stay open and not face declining population. And that's going to come when people see that it's in their economic interest to come to a neighborhood, to start a business. And it could be a high-tech business, a new app, or it could be a neighborhood business. Actually, we just had a winner of an immigrant entrepreneurship contest this week, and it's the ZB Market, which is down on South Grand, and it's a business that was started by a gentleman here who's actually from Peru, and he started a business. And so these businesses that become started, then they provide a livelihood, the family is here, the schools stay open, we also have housing. And so these are all the contributors to regional economic prosperity. And then with that, you get what Jorge said, which is a community that is more inclusive, multicultural, where everybody wants to live, because it's more interesting and it's where people who are thinking about what's going to be a more vibrant reality are going to want to be.
And I'm curious, I'm sure it has to do a lot with what culture, where they're coming from. But do immigrants look at some of the bones of our city and find it attractive, where some of our locals may be looking for a bigger yard and a bigger house? There's something about our fabric that they find attractive. And,
yeah,
and
we
we'll
hear that
build up.
often, that we find that both the neighborhoods are very appealing, the green space is appealing, the amenities we have as a region, things like the history of soccer in St. Louis. We have a lot of attention towards soccer because that's important to many immigrants. We have a lot of things going that are very appealing because the cost of living contributes to that. It's easy to start a business and it's not hard to raise a family.
So 2020 used to sound like it was a long way away, but
it's not.
But it's unbelievably
It's
not.
not.
So how are we doing?
So, well, we are growing, but again, Mosaic Project has only been in existence not quite 2 years in terms of really my being a leader of an initiative that we actually have programs and ambassador programs and professional connector programs that really help people begin to build bridges for their jobs. So we're in the beginning stages of launching programs that will help make that more possible.
Well, and to follow up on that, the International Institute, and if Mosaic Project is really about attracting immigrants here, then the International Institute is about helping to retain them. And so we're about providing the services that are necessary to be able to help the additional individuals that are going to be coming. And so we've just moved in the last 30 days also to ramp up our services. And so what we're expecting to see now over the next few years is this growth in the numbers of individuals that come and expansion in services then to be able to address their needs, both the Hispanic population with Casa de Salud and their services in collaboration with the International Institute and other organizations in the community. We're really going to be looking at how can we help to retain those immigrants that are already here in the community and those that we're going to be attracting.
Doug mentioned it a little bit, but how much of the academic world is a part of our immigration story and as we're going forward?
It's a big part of the story. One of the things that the study by Professor Jack Strauss had identified was that we have up to 9,000 international students here, and they are very interested in staying if we can help them make the connection between their skill sets, the visa opportunities that are not simple, but they're doable to manage, and then the university with their international student guidance, the career service office, and ultimately with those companies that are hiring. And part of my time in this coming year is going to be spent increasingly with companies in the community to explain to them why would they be interested in hiring international students, and then how. And I have a team of our immigration lawyers who are offering assistance to help do some of that education with me. How and why can you hire some of the international talent? We actually have a gap in the region of STEM jobs that are going unfilled. One of the times I was here with Jim McKelvey, and partly why he created, Launch Code was these reasons for talent. And we have a lot of international talent that's in these graduate programs and in the STEM fields, but we have to make that connection so that the employers and the companies can find the talent and also understand a mechanism for how to hire the great talent that we already have.
We talk about attracting and then retaining. Jorge, are there holes in our net when it comes to support, when it comes to our network that we're talking about of services or just help in any way that might be needed?
Sure, there are holes. I mean, one of them, and I think the reason that Bob Fox is the chairman of St. Louis, of Casa de Salud, and his role as a trustee at St. Louis University, started Casa de Salud is because healthcare is a gap, especially after a predecessor clinic failed. If you can't have adequate basic healthcare, then you're not going to be able to pursue an education or get a job or start a business. So that continues to be a major challenge that we're going to be facing in the foreseeable future. But I think the pieces are in place. CASA and other safety net organizations, as Anna just said, you have the attraction piece, you have the retention piece, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Asian Chamber of Commerce. You really have this growing momentum, I would argue, in St. Louis that is feeding upon what is going on, and we're reaching the proverbial tipping point where I think you are going to see some dramatic progress in the next few years.
Just real quickly, unfortunately, tragically, there are refugee spots around the country. Are we reaching out? Is there any effort? I'm just curious to say, come to St. Louis if the UN got involved again like they did previously.
Well, we actually sponsor refugees to St. Louis every year. It's one of the things that we do through the International Institute. We're the state's largest refugee resettlement organization in addition to our other services. That doesn't mean that we sponsor a lot, though, because there are only 70,000 refugees who are admitted to the United States annually. And so we sponsor about 500 to 600 of those into St. Louis every year. But what happens then is once a group will arrive in St. Louis, then secondary migration can occur. This is what happened with the Bosnian population, for instance. Over a period of 10 years, we sponsored about 7,000 Bosnians to St. Louis, but the community today, including American-born children, is as much as 50,000 people. The reason that happened was because once the Bosnians got to St. Louis, they discovered affordable housing, good entry-level jobs, a welcoming community, and they told Cousin Adnan in San Francisco and everybody to come to St. Louis instead, and they came.
The newspaper moved from New York City.
Right, and so secondary migration can be an attraction in and of itself.